Kale stepped out of his small shuttle onto the dusty plains of Zathara. The sky was a strange color, not quite green, not quite yellow, and it cast a soft light over the jagged rocks and distant mountains. The air was thin but breathable, carrying a scent of minerals and wild plants. Kale adjusted the strap of his pack and took a deep breath. He had traveled far across the stars, but nothing had prepared him for this world. He walked carefully over the uneven ground, his eyes scanning the horizon. In the distance, he saw a large structure made of smooth, dark metal. It rose like a mountain, and Kale could see movement near its entrance. Figures moved with precise steps, carrying long weapons and wearing armor that shone faintly in the alien light. Kale recognized them immediately as warriors, though their design and posture were unlike anything he had seen before. Kale had heard stories about Zathara. Its queen, Mira, was said to be a legendary fighter who commanded respect through her skill and power. Many worlds had tried to make alliances or claim control, but her warriors had always defended her without hesitation. Kale had no intention of fighting. His mission was simple: return a small ceremonial dagger he had borrowed during his first encounter with Mira's people, and offer a gesture of peace. As he approached, he noticed a raised platform near the center of the structure. Upon it lay a sword unlike any weapon Kale had seen before. Its blade shimmered with a faint, almost living glow. Runes of light ran along its edge, moving slowly as if they had their own heartbeat. Kale felt a strange pull toward it. He knew this was Mira's sword, a symbol of her leadership and power. He hesitated, unsure if touching it would be acceptable. A sound of steps echoed through the metal corridors, and Kale turned to see Mira herself. She walked with a calm confidence, her armor gleaming, and her presence seemed to command the very air around her. Her hair, dark as night, flowed freely behind her. In her eyes was a sharp intelligence, and Kale felt a sudden awareness of being measured and judged. Mira's warriors stopped and formed a semicircle around her. They carried their weapons loosely, but Kale could sense the readiness in their stance. Each of them was alert, their muscles tense, their eyes fixed on him. Kale felt a chill run down his spine. He had faced dangers before, but the intensity of this group was different. It was not aggression that filled the air, but certainty. They knew their queen was powerful, and they trusted her completely. Kale swallowed and raised the small dagger he carried. Its metal was simple, polished by his hands, but he had learned it was highly respected by Mira's people because of the craftsmanship and the ritual that had gone into it. He stepped forward carefully, keeping his movements slow and deliberate. "My queen," Kyle said, his voice steady despite the tension he felt. "I wish to return this. It was taken from your people, and I have kept it safe. I hope you will accept it." Mira's eyes narrowed slightly as she studied him. She did not speak immediately. Kyle felt the weight of her gaze, as if she could see every thought and intention in his mind. He held the dagger firmly but respectfully, showing no fear. One of Mira's warriors shifted, a low click of metal, but none moved to block him. It was clear that Mira's judgment alone would decide his fate. Kale took another step forward, then stopped when he saw the sword on the pedestal nearby. The glow from the blade seemed to flicker, almost as if it had noticed him. Kale's curiosity was strong, but he reminded himself to focus on the dagger. He had come to return it, not to touch the queen's sword. Mira stepped forward. Her movements were graceful, but each step seemed to carry weight. The glow from her sword reflected on her armor, making her appear even taller and more imposing. Kale could feel the energy in the air change. It was as if the entire arena recognized her power. "You carry it well," Mira said finally, her voice calm but firm. Many would have feared to approach with such honesty. Few have such courage. Kale bowed slightly, careful not to overstep. "I only wish to do what is right. The dagger belongs to your people." Mira studied him for a moment longer, then nodded. "Then you may place it here." She gestured to a small ceremonial stand near the sword. Kyle felt relief and carefully placed the dagger on the stand. His hands shook slightly, not from fear, but from the tension that had held him tightly for several minutes. As soon as his fingers left the dagger, a faint humming filled the air. Kale felt a sudden warmth spread through his hand. It was not painful yet, but it was surprising. He looked at Mira, whose eyes now showed a hint of curiosity. "The sword?" Kale began, but stopped, realizing he was not sure what to say. The sword's glow pulsed faintly in response to the energy in the room. It seemed almost alive. Mira did not move toward the sword. Instead, she watched Kale carefully. "You have felt it," she said. "The sword tests those who approach it. Not all can touch it without consequence. Why do you think it burns?" Kale looked down at his hand. The warmth had grown into a faint heat that made him pull back slightly. I do not know," he admitted honestly. "I only wanted to return the dagger. I did not wish to touch the sword." Mira nodded slowly. "Intent matters. Courage matters. Strength matters, but not always in the way you think." She took a step back, and the glow of the sword dimmed slightly, as if acknowledging her words. The warriors shifted again. They had been tense, watching every movement, but now they seemed uncertain. They glanced at each other, then at Kale. For the first time, Kale sensed hesitation in their ranks. He realized that even these formidable warriors were cautious of the sword, not out of fear of him, but out of respect for Mira and the energy she commanded. Kale's curiosity returned. The sword called to him in some small way, but he forced himself to look away. He had come here to act with honesty, and he would not let temptation interfere. "I have traveled far to meet you," he said. "I hope that my actions show that humans can be trusted." Mira studied him again. Her gaze was intense but measured. Finally, she spoke. "Trust is earned, and you are beginning to earn it. The sword is not merely a weapon. It is a bond between my people and me. Few outsiders can even approach it without harm. You have survived the first test." Kale's heart raced. He did not know if she meant the heat in his hand or something more, but he felt a sense of relief. The tension in the air seemed to ease slightly. The glow of the sword dimmed further, though it still shimmered faintly on the pedestal. Mira turned to her warriors. "Step back. Allow him to breathe. Watch, but do not interfere unless I command it." The warriors obeyed immediately, retreating a few steps but keeping their eyes fixed on Kyle. Kyle bowed once more, carefully, and straightened. "Thank you, my queen. I will do my best to honor this trust." Mira's expression softened just a little. "Your actions today matter more than words. Courage is rare even among those who travel the stars. Few can approach with honesty when danger might follow. You are one of the few who can." Kale felt a mix of relief and pride. He had faced the test of courage and honesty, and he had not faltered. Yet he also sensed that this was only the beginning. The sword's energy had burned his hand, showing him that there were limits to what he understood. Mira's warriors had shown signs of respect and fear, which meant he was already being judged not just as a visitor, but as a potential ally. Kale took a step back, lowering his gaze respectfully. "I wish to learn more about your people and your ways. I believe there is much humans and Zatharans can share." Mira's eyes softened further. "Perhaps. But first you must understand that courage, honesty, and respect are tested here daily. The sword is only one of many ways to measure that. Tomorrow we begin a different lesson, one that will show whether your spirit can endure what lies ahead." Kale nodded. He did not know what that lesson would be, but he felt ready. For the first time, he believed that humans, even alone on an alien world, could earn respect through courage, honesty, and determination. He looked at Mira, and then at the sword, and knew that this encounter would shape his destiny. The path ahead was uncertain, but he would walk it with steady steps and a clear heart. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the alien plains. Kale stood silently, watching Mira and her warriors, knowing that the first challenge had passed, but the true journey was only beginning. The morning sun rose slowly over the jagged plains of Zethra, casting a golden light across the arena where Mira and her warriors trained. Kyle stood just outside the entrance, adjusting his pack and feeling a mixture of anticipation and nervousness. Today he would face a challenge unlike any he had encountered before. He did not yet know what it would be, but he sensed that the energy of Mira's sword would be at the center of it. Kale walked carefully into the arena. The ground was smooth and firm, polished by years of heavy foot traffic. He could hear the faint hum of energy coming from the sword pedestal. The blade shimmered faintly in the sunlight, its glow pulsing rhythmically like a heartbeat. Kale could not explain why, but he felt drawn to it. It was as if the sword was calling to him, testing him even before he reached it. Mira stood at the far end of the arena, her posture calm and commanding. Her dark hair flowed behind her, and her armor reflected the light, making her appear taller and even more powerful than yesterday. Her warriors formed a semicircle around her, their movements precise, their eyes fixed on Kale. They did not speak, but Kale felt their presence pressing on him. Every one of them was ready to act if he made a single mistake. Kale approached slowly, each step deliberate. He had returned the dagger yesterday and had gained Mira's attention through honesty and courage, but this would be different. Today he would attempt to touch the sword. He did not know what would happen, only that the blade carried a power unlike anything humans had ever seen. He stopped a few steps from the pedestal, taking a deep breath. His hand hovered above the sword. He felt the warmth again, subtle but noticeable, as if the blade were alive. Kale's heart raced, but he forced himself to remain calm. He remembered Mira's words, "Intent matters. Courage matters." He reminded himself that he meant no harm. He only wished to show respect and learn. Kale extended his hand slowly. The moment his fingers touched the hilt, a surge of energy shot through him. His entire hand burned with an intense heat that made him jerk back slightly. He winced but did not let go of the sword. The energy seemed to recognize his determination. It burned him, yes, but it also tested his courage. Mira's eyes narrowed. She did not speak, but Kale could feel her studying him carefully. Her warriors tensed. The air around the pedestal seemed to shimmer, the energy of the sword radiating outward. Kale felt a pull, almost like the sword wanted him to lift it, but he resisted. He did not yet understand it fully, and he did not want to misuse its power. The sword's glow intensified, running along the length of the blade in patterns that seemed to shift and change. Kale realized that this was no ordinary weapon. It was a living instrument of energy, responding not only to physical touch but to the intentions of the person who held it. His courage, his honesty, his respect, all of it mattered in this moment. Kale clenched his teeth and held the sword firmly. The burning sensation spread up his arm, but he did not falter. His other hand instinctively reached for the dagger he had returned, as if seeking balance or support. The warriors watched silently, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and awe. They had trained for battle, but few outsiders had dared approach the sword with such composure. Mira finally spoke, her voice calm but strong. "Do you feel it?" she asked. "The power is not meant to harm you, but to reveal who you are. Many come seeking strength without understanding it. Few can endure this test." Kale nodded, wincing slightly as the energy surged through him. "I feel it," he said. "It burns, but I am not afraid. I wish only to honor your people and learn from you." Mira's eyes softened just a little. She could sense his sincerity. "Then you may proceed," she said. "But know this. The sword will not forgive deceit, fear, or weakness. It recognizes truth. If your heart falters, it will respond accordingly." Kale took a deep breath and adjusted his grip. The heat in his hand was intense, but he focused on steadying his mind. He visualized his purpose, respect, courage, and honesty. He imagined himself returning to his people not as a conqueror or thief, but as a human who had earned the trust of Mira and her warriors. Slowly, he lifted the sword slightly from the pedestal. The energy pulsed stronger, running up his arm and filling him with a strange sensation. It was not pain alone. It was as if the sword were communicating with him, testing his resolve and spirit. Kale felt a surge of confidence, a sense of connection that he had never experienced before. He realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the will to act despite it. The warriors began to step back, some lowering their weapons. They sensed the bond forming between Kale and the sword, and they recognized the courage it took to withstand its energy. Some whispered among themselves, marveling at the human who had dared touch the queen's blade. Kale noticed their movements but did not let them distract him. He remained focused on Mira and the sword. Mira watched silently, her expression unreadable. She could see the human's intent, the purity of his actions, and the courage that set him apart from others. She knew that the sword had chosen to test him, but she also saw that he had passed the first part of the trial. The real test would come next, understanding the sword's power and using it wisely. Kale lifted the sword higher. The glow now spread outward, casting light across the arena. The energy was almost tangible, vibrating through the air. Kale felt strength flow through him, but he also felt the weight of responsibility. This was not a weapon to be wielded lightly. It demanded respect, wisdom, and courage. He understood that humans, though small in comparison to Mira's warriors, could prove themselves through these qualities. Suddenly, a ripple of energy surged outward from the sword. Kale staggered slightly, but he held firm. The warriors gasped and took a step back. The energy was immense, yet Kale did not let it control him. He realized that this was a test not only of strength but of character. The sword's power would bend to those who were honest and courageous, and it would repel those who were not. Kyle's hand burned, but he did not withdraw. He felt a strange calmness settling over him, a clarity of purpose. He understood that this moment was more than a test of bravery. It was an opportunity to show what humans could achieve through spirit and determination. He was small, fragile in comparison to the alien warriors, but his courage was his strength. The sword pulsed once more, then began to dim slightly. Kale felt the energy ease from his hand, leaving behind a warmth that was almost comforting. He lowered the blade carefully, returning it to the pedestal. The glow faded to a soft shimmer, as if acknowledging his courage. Mira's expression shifted slightly. She nodded once, a small sign of approval. "You have endured the first challenge," she said. "Many would have faltered under the heat, the energy, the fear. You did not. That is the mark of one who can learn the ways of Zathara." Kale breathed heavily, his hand still tingling from the energy. He bowed respectfully. "Thank you, my queen. I only wish to serve and learn." The warriors remained silent, their weapons lowered. Some looked at each other in disbelief. They had seen many humans before, but few had dared touch the sword with such courage and humility. Kale's actions had earned their respect, even if they did not yet fully understand him. Mira stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "Tomorrow you will face another test, one that will show whether you can withstand the pressures of leadership, the challenges of battle, and the decisions that affect my people. Today you have shown courage. Tomorrow we will see if you can combine it with wisdom." Kale nodded. He understood that this was only the beginning. The sword had tested his courage and honesty, but the real challenges were still ahead. He had learned something important, that humans, though small and fragile, could earn respect through determination, courage, and a clear heart. As the sun climbed higher, Kale left the arena, his mind racing with the lessons of the morning. He knew that the path ahead would be difficult, but he felt ready. He had faced the first test and survived. He had touched the sword, felt its power, and learned that honesty and courage mattered more than strength alone. Kyle glanced back at the pedestal one last time before leaving. The sword shimmered faintly as if acknowledging him once more. He smiled, knowing that this was the first step on a journey that could change the way humans and Zatharans saw each other. The future was uncertain, but Kale was ready to face it, guided by courage, honesty, and determination. The next day, the arena was alive with energy. The sun shone bright, casting long shadows across the polished ground. Kale arrived early, his mind focused on the lessons Mira had promised. Today he would face something far greater than the test of courage with the sword. He did not yet know the details, but he felt the weight of expectation in the air. Mira stood at the center of the arena, her sword gleaming in the sunlight. Her warriors formed their semicircle, as precise and disciplined as ever. Their eyes were fixed on Kale, their movements stiff with anticipation. The tension was palpable. Kale could sense that today the sword's energy would interact not only with him, but with everyone around it. Kale took a deep breath and stepped into the arena. Mira's eyes met his, calm yet commanding. "Today," she said, her voice carrying across the open space, "you will see the full power of the sword. It will test more than courage. It will test presence, focus, and the strength of your spirit. Be prepared." Kale nodded, feeling a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. He approached the pedestal carefully, keeping his hand near but not touching the sword. The energy pulsing from the blade was stronger than yesterday. He felt it pressing against him like a quiet warning, but also like a challenge. Mira lifted her sword slightly. The glow spread outward, filling the arena with light. Kale felt a tingling sensation run across his body, his hair standing on end. The warriors shifted nervously, sensing the energy that radiated not only from the blade but from Mira herself. She was a master of the weapon, and her presence amplified its power. Kale's hand trembled slightly as he extended it toward the hilt. The warmth was immediate, a burning sensation that surged up his arm. He gritted his teeth and held firm, his mind focused on his intent. He wished only to respect the sword and show his courage. He reminded himself of Mira's words. It will respond to truth, not to fear. The sword pulsed with energy, a wave of light running along its blade. Kale felt the power flow into him, not to harm him but to measure him. He realized that the sword was not merely a weapon. It was a living tool, an extension of Mira's will and her connection to her people. Its energy reacted to his presence, his courage, and his honesty. Suddenly, the glow intensified, spreading outward in a wave that reached the warriors. Kale noticed the first signs of fear. Some of the warriors stepped back instinctively, lowering their weapons slightly. They had trained to face enemies, but the sword's energy was something different. It was not just strength. It was authority, presence, and an undeniable force that demanded recognition. Kale's heart pounded, but he did not falter. He stood firm, holding the sword lightly in his hand. The energy continued to surge, and Kale felt a connection forming between himself and the weapon. It was a strange feeling, both exhilarating and humbling. He realized that the sword did not attack those who were honest and courageous. It challenged them to rise to their full potential. Mira's voice cut through the hum of energy. Focus, Kale. Do not fear the power. Let it show you what courage truly is. Control it with your mind, not with force. Kale nodded. He tightened his grip slightly, feeling the warmth spread up his arm. His body reacted instinctively, adjusting to the energy. The sword seemed to respond to his intent, not just his touch. He understood that this was more than a test of bravery. It was a test of character. The warriors' unease grew. Some whispered to each other, unable to conceal their astonishment. They had faced countless threats, but few outsiders had dared to hold the sword without faltering. Kale could sense their fear, but he did not let it distract him. He focused solely on the connection between himself and the weapon. Then, without warning, the sword emitted a pulse of energy that swept across the arena. Kyle staggered slightly but held firm. The glow intensified, bathing the entire space in a radiant light. The warriors gasped, some lowering their weapons entirely. Others took a cautious step back, unsure how to react to the overwhelming presence. Kyle's mind raced, but he stayed calm. He realized that the sword's power was not meant to harm, but to reveal truth. It showed courage, honesty, and the strength of spirit. Those who faltered would be pushed back. Those who stood firm like Kyle would be acknowledged. The energy pulsed again, stronger this time. Kale felt a wave of heat, but he did not release his hold. He breathed steadily, centering himself. Slowly, the warmth began to feel like a flow of energy rather than pain. He understood that the sword was testing his ability to remain composed under pressure. Mira watched silently, her eyes sharp. She could see the connection forming, the respect growing between Kale and the sword. She knew that the energy was teaching not only him, but also her warriors. They would see that courage and honesty could earn respect even from outsiders. The first of the warriors could no longer contain their fear. They dropped their weapons, their hands shaking. Some took a cautious step back, while others simply stared in awe. Kale noticed their hesitation but did not waver. He understood that the true test was not only physical, but mental and spiritual. The sword's energy revealed the truth of each person's heart. Kale lifted the sword slightly higher. The glow spread outward again, and this time the energy seemed to calm. The warriors stopped retreating but remained wary. They were learning a lesson they had never experienced before. That power combined with courage and honesty demanded respect, not blind fear. Mira spoke again. You see, Kale, courage is more than facing danger. It is standing firm when others falter. It is acting with truth in your heart. The sword does not burn the brave who are honest. It tests, it teaches, it shows the path. Kyle nodded, feeling a deep sense of understanding. He realized that humans, though physically weaker than Zatharans, could prove themselves through spirit and courage. The sword's energy was immense, but it acknowledged his intent. He felt a bond forming, subtle but real. Then the energy surged one last time. The light expanded outward, reaching every corner of the arena. Kale's hands burned, but he did not flinch. The warriors around Mira were overwhelmed. Some dropped their weapons entirely, unable to stand against the sheer presence of the blade. Others turned and fled, their training unable to match the raw display of power combined with Kale's courage. Kale stood alone with Mira, holding the sword lightly. He felt the heat recede, replaced by a calm energy that filled him with clarity. He understood that this moment was historic. Humans and Zetharans could connect through courage, honesty, and mutual respect. The sword had revealed the truth of his spirit, and in doing so, it had shown the warriors that power and respect were not determined by size or strength alone. Mira's expression softened slightly. You have done well, she said. You have faced the sword and endured its power without fear. You have shown courage, honesty, and wisdom. Few outsiders could have done what you have done. Kale lowered the sword carefully, returning it to the pedestal. The glow dimmed to a gentle shimmer. He breathed heavily, feeling the energy that had surged through him still tingling in his veins. The arena was quiet except for the soft hum of the sword and the occasional whisper of a returning warrior. Mira stepped closer, her dark eyes calm. Your actions today have shown more than courage. They have shown what humans can achieve when guided by intent and honesty. The warriors who witnessed this will not forget. They have learned that respect is earned, not demanded. Kale bowed respectfully. Thank you, my queen. I only wish to continue learning and to honor your people. Mira nodded. Tomorrow, the next lesson begins. It will challenge not only your courage, but your ability to act under pressure. Today, you have shown strength. Tomorrow, we will see if you can combine it with wisdom and judgment. Kale felt a mixture of relief and anticipation. He had passed one of the greatest tests he could imagine. The sword had shown him its power, and the warriors had recognized his courage. Yet he knew this was only the beginning. The lessons of Zathara were far from over, and each step would test him in new ways. As Kale left the arena, he looked back at the sword one last time. Its gentle shimmer seemed to acknowledge him as if granting silent approval. He smiled faintly, knowing that today humans had shown their strength not through force but through courage, honesty, and determination. The path ahead was uncertain, but Kale was ready to face it, guided by the lessons he had learned and the bond he had begun to form with Mira and her people. The arena was quiet now, but the tension lingered like a heavy fog. Kale stood in the center, holding the sword lightly, feeling its energy hum gently through his arm. The heat and the glow had faded slightly, leaving a calm that seemed almost deliberate. The warriors who had faced him yesterday and today were still present, though many of them were hesitant, uncertain how to respond. Kale's eyes swept over them. He saw their fear, but he also noticed something more: respect. Some warriors had never bowed to an outsider before, and yet here they were, hesitant to make a single aggressive move. Kale understood that the sword had not only tested him, but it had tested them as well. The warriors were now confronted with a truth they had rarely faced. The strength of courage and honesty was not measured by size, skill, or weapons, but by the heart. Mira watched from her place. Standing tall, her sword still pulsing faintly with energy. Her expression was calm, but Kyle could sense her approval. She had seen many outsiders approach the sword, and most had faltered. Few had survived the energy's initial burn, and fewer still had maintained their composure. Kale had not only endured, but he had done so with clarity of purpose and humility. A low murmur ran through the ranks of the warriors. Some whispered to one another, glancing at Kale with wide eyes. They had been trained to face enemies and threats every day, but this was different. The sword's energy was not simply a test of strength, it was a revelation. It forced the truth of a person's spirit to surface, and many of them could not meet it. One warrior, tall and broad-shouldered, stepped forward, his hands gripping his weapon tightly. Kale could see the hesitation in his movements. The sword's energy was overwhelming, but he also sensed the human courage that Kale displayed. The warrior's eyes flicked to Mira, then back at Kale, uncertain of what to do. Kale lifted the sword slightly, feeling its pulse respond to him. The warmth spread through his body, but it was no longer burning. It was guiding, almost as if the weapon were encouraging him to act with wisdom and presence. He looked at the warrior and spoke calmly. I mean no harm. I only wish to show respect and honor your people. The warrior hesitated, then slowly lowered his weapon. Another warrior, younger and smaller, followed suit. The murmurs grew louder and more weapons were slowly lowered. The energy of the sword seemed to recognize their hesitance and reflected it outward, creating a wave that flowed through the arena. Kale realized that the sword was teaching not only him but also Mira's warriors a lesson in humility and courage. Suddenly, the energy pulsed stronger, brighter, and faster. It was as if the sword had reached its peak, communicating something powerful to everyone present. Kale felt it surge through him, steady and clear. The warmth was no longer intimidating. It was commanding attention. The warriors froze, and then one by one they dropped their weapons entirely. The first to drop his weapon was the tall warrior. The metal clanged against the polished arena floor. Kale felt a wave of relief, but he did not let it distract him. He understood that the true test was not only maintaining courage under the sword's energy, but also demonstrating calm and presence that others could sense. The younger warrior stepped back, his hands shaking slightly as he let go of his blade. Another warrior followed, then another until a surprising majority of the group had laid down their weapons. Some fled toward the edges of the arena, not in panic but in recognition that they were witnessing something beyond their training. They did not dare confront the sword or Kale directly. Kale's heart pounded, but he remained steady. He lowered the sword carefully, holding it in a manner that showed respect rather than dominance. He understood that the energy had chosen to reveal his courage, and in doing so, had commanded the warriors to respect him. Fear had no place here, not in the presence of honesty and courage. Mira's expression shifted slightly. A small smile appeared at the corners of her mouth, her eyes acknowledging Kale's success. She lifted her sword slightly, the glow matching Kyle's own, and a subtle energy pulsed between them. It was a recognition, a confirmation that Kale had passed a critical test. He had not only survived the sword's burn, but he had also shown it and Mira's warriors the power of human courage and integrity. Kale felt the warmth of the sword fade into a soft hum, almost comforting now. He breathed steadily, sensing that the tension in the arena was breaking. The warriors who had fled were returning slowly, some still cautious, others amazed by what they had seen. They had faced humans before, but never a human who could endure the energy of Mira's sword and remain calm. One warrior approached Kale cautiously, bowing slightly. "I did not think any outsider could withstand the sword," he said quietly. "Your courage is unlike anything we have seen." Kyle smiled faintly. "I only did what I thought was right," he replied. "I mean no harm, and I wish only to show respect." Another warrior, older and more experienced, stepped forward. He nodded slowly, then lowered his weapon fully. "You have shown the truth of courage," he said. "It is rare even among our own people. Today we have witnessed something extraordinary." The remaining warriors glanced at each other, then at Kale. Slowly, their fear turned into awe. Some whispered quietly, unable to hide their admiration. They had been trained to face enemies with skill and discipline, but today they had seen the power of honesty, courage, and a clear heart. Kale's actions had taught them that strength alone was not enough. True courage could command respect in ways that weapons and training could not. Mira stepped forward. "You see, Kale," she said, her voice carrying clearly across the arena. "Courage and honesty are not just personal qualities. They influence those around you. Today you have not only proven yourself, but you have also taught my warriors a lesson, one that they will not forget." Kyle nodded, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. He had expected only to face the sword, but he had also demonstrated human courage and integrity to an entire group of warriors. The lesson was not only for him, but for all who had witnessed it. He understood that this moment was historic, a step toward bridging the gap between humans and Zatharans. The warriors who had fled earlier returned slowly, their eyes wide with wonder. They did not speak immediately, but their body language showed recognition of Kale's courage. They lowered their weapons completely, and a silence settled over the arena. For the first time, Kale noticed a shift in their demeanor. Fear had been replaced by respect, and caution had been replaced by acknowledgement. Mira's gaze softened. She lowered her sword fully, letting the glow fade to a gentle shimmer. She approached Kale, her movements calm and deliberate. "You have done well," she said. "The sword has accepted your intent, and my warriors have learned from your courage. Today marks a turning point. Humans are often underestimated, but you have shown that true strength comes from spirit and honesty." Kyle bowed respectfully. "Thank you, my queen. I only wish to continue learning and to honor your people." Mira nodded. "Tomorrow the next lesson begins. You will face challenges that test not only courage, but wisdom, judgment, and the ability to inspire others. Today you have shown that humans can stand alongside Zatharans not through force but through spirit. That is rare and it is valuable." Kale felt a mixture of relief and anticipation. He had survived the sword's energy and witnessed the warriors' reactions. He understood that human courage could earn respect even in an alien world, and that honesty and integrity could influence others in ways strength alone could not. The lesson was clear. Respect is earned and courage is demonstrated not by aggression, but by action guided by purpose. As the sun began to descend, casting long shadows across the arena, Kale looked at Mira and the sword. He understood that this moment would be remembered not only by him, but by every warrior who had witnessed it. Humans could prove themselves through courage, honesty, and determination, and that truth had been demonstrated here today. Kyle's heart swelled with resolve. He knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he also knew that he had passed an important test. The warrior's respect, Mira's acknowledgement, and the sword's subtle glow all confirmed that humans could achieve greatness through spirit and courage. He turned to leave the arena, glancing back one last time. The sword shimmered gently as if offering silent approval. Cale smiled faintly. He had learned that true courage was not only about enduring pain or danger, but about standing firm with honesty and intent. The warriors had seen it. The queen had recognized it, and he knew that this was only the beginning of a journey that would change the way humans and Zetharans understood each other. Cale stepped carefully out of the arena, feeling the energy of the sword still hum faintly in his veins. The warriors had dispersed, some returning to their posts, others lingering at the edges, whispering in quiet awe. The lesson of the sword had been clear. Courage, honesty, and intent could command respect and influence even the strongest of warriors. Cale had seen it firsthand, and now he carried that knowledge as both a gift and a responsibility. Mira approached him, her movements calm, yet carrying the same authority that had struck awe into Cale since his arrival. She stopped a few steps away, her dark eyes meeting his. For a moment neither spoke. The arena was quiet, the soft hum of the sword fading into a gentle glow. Cale felt a strange sense of peace in her presence, as if he had earned something important, though he did not fully understand what it would mean yet. "You have done more than survive the sword's test," Mira said at last, her voice steady. "You have shown my warriors and me that humans can embody courage and honesty in ways we often underestimate. Few outsiders have ever achieved this." Cale bowed slightly. "I only wish to honor your people and learn from your ways. I did not come here to prove myself through strength, but to show that humans can act with respect and courage." Mira nodded, her expression softening. "And that is why you are here now. Today marks the beginning of a partnership, not just a test. Your actions have earned my trust and the trust of my people." Cale's heart raced. He had expected a long journey, more tests or even rejection. Instead, Mira was offering him an opportunity to learn and work alongside her. He realized that the courage and honesty he had shown were not only personal achievements, but bridges to understanding between two very different civilizations. Mira gestured to the sword, now resting calmly on the pedestal. Its glow had softened, a gentle light that seemed alive yet contained. "The sword chooses who can approach it," she explained. "It reflects the heart and spirit of those who stand before it. You have proven yourself worthy of learning its ways, but more importantly, you have shown that humans can be allies, not just visitors or strangers." Cale stepped closer to the pedestal, careful to respect the sword. He could feel its subtle energy, not burning now, but humming softly as if acknowledging his presence. The moment was humbling. The sword had tested him, and he had endured. It had also taught him something vital. Courage and honesty mattered as much as skill and power, sometimes more. The warriors who had witnessed the display gathered around slowly. Their weapons remained lowered, their expressions a mixture of respect and curiosity. Some approached Cale, nodding slightly, acknowledging his courage. Cale realized that he had earned a place among them, not as an equal in skill, but as someone who had proven the value of spirit and intent. One warrior, the tall man who had first dropped his weapon in fear, stepped forward and bowed. "I did not think any outsider could endure the sword's energy," he said quietly. "Your courage has shown us a truth we often forget. Strength is not only measured by force, but by heart and mind." Cale nodded respectfully. "I have learned from you and your people as well," he said. "Your discipline, loyalty, and honor are remarkable. Humans can learn much from Zathara, and perhaps you can learn from us as well." Mira watched silently, her expression unreadable for a moment. Then she spoke, her voice firm and clear. "Humans and Zatharans are different in many ways, but today we have seen that courage, honesty, and intent are universal. You, Cale, have begun a bridge between our peoples. That is rare and valuable." Kyle felt a sense of purpose deepen within him. He had traveled far across the stars not for conquest or glory, but to show respect and learn. Now he realized that his journey was more important than he had imagined. Humans could earn trust, respect, and alliances through their spirit, even among civilizations far stronger and more advanced. Mira stepped closer to him, placing a hand on the hilt of her sword. "The sword is not only a weapon," she said. "It is a symbol of leadership and responsibility. It chooses who can wield its power, but it also reflects the spirit of those around it. You have shown that your intent is pure and your courage true. For that you may learn from it, and through it gain understanding of my people." Kale felt a hum of energy travel through him again, gentle this time, like a quiet acknowledgement. He bowed slightly to Mira and then looked at the sword. He did not lift it fully, but he held it lightly with his hands resting on the hilt as if symbolically connecting with its energy. The sword pulsed softly in response, almost alive in its approval. The warriors gathered closer, some still cautious, but most now openly curious. They observed Kale with a mixture of respect and intrigue. He realized that his actions had not only earned Mira's trust but had also shown the warriors a new way to view outsiders. Humans could be courageous, honest, and honorable. They could be allies, not threats. Mira turned to the warriors. "You have seen today the value of courage and honesty," she said. "This human has faced the sword and endured its energy. He has acted with respect and intent. Learn from this and let it remind you that strength alone is not enough. Spirit and heart matter just as much." The warriors nodded slowly, their expressions shifting from doubt to acknowledgement. Some stepped forward, bowing to Kale as a gesture of respect. Kale felt humbled but proud. He understood that this moment was not just about him. It was about the potential for unity between humans and Zetharans. Mira smiled faintly. "Kale, tomorrow we begin training together. You will learn our ways, our strategies, and our understanding of the sword's energy. In return, you will share your knowledge, your courage, and your perspective. Together we may discover strengths neither humans nor Zetharans could achieve alone." Kale's heart lifted. He had come seeking understanding, and now he was being offered a true partnership. He realized that humans were often underestimated in distant worlds, but courage, honesty, and integrity could bridge even the greatest gaps. He felt a renewed sense of determination. "I am ready, my queen," Kyle said. "I will learn and share. I will honor your people and work to strengthen the bond between us." Mira nodded, satisfaction in her gaze. "Good. That is the spirit that earns trust and respect. Remember, courage alone is not enough. Wisdom, intent, and clarity of heart are equally important. Together we will face challenges that test all these qualities." The rest of the day passed in quiet preparation. Kale trained alongside the warriors, learning their movements, their discipline, and their coordination. He practiced under Mira's guidance, focusing not only on physical technique but also on understanding the sword's energy and how it interacted with intent and spirit. Each movement, each step, was a lesson in balance, respect, and focus. By the time the sun set, Kale felt a deep sense of accomplishment. He had faced the sword, endured its energy, and earned the respect of Mira and her warriors. He had learned that courage, honesty, and intent could influence even the strongest, most disciplined warriors. More importantly, he had begun to form bonds that could grow into true understanding and cooperation between two very different civilizations. As night fell, Mira and Kyle stood together, looking out over the plains of Zathara. The sword rested on its pedestal, glowing faintly, a quiet reminder of the day's lessons. Kale felt the weight of responsibility, but also the thrill of possibility. He understood that humans could make a difference in distant worlds not through force or dominance, but through courage, honesty, and respect. Mira spoke quietly, her voice carrying over the quiet night. "Kyle, the path ahead is long and filled with challenges. But today, you have shown the heart and spirit that can succeed where others might fail. Remember this lesson, and you will not only survive, but thrive. You and your people can be allies, not just visitors. That is rare and valuable." Kyle nodded, feeling the truth of her words. He had learned that courage was more than endurance. It was action guided by purpose and honesty. It was the willingness to stand firm, even when others faltered. And it was the ability to influence, inspire, and earn respect through deeds, not words alone. As Kale prepared to leave the arena, Mira's warriors gathered near the edges, no longer fearful. Some bowed, others nodded, and a few even offered small gestures of camaraderie. Kale realized that he had earned more than respect. He had earned the beginning of a partnership, the first step toward unity and understanding between humans and Zetharans. The sword's glow dimmed slightly, leaving only a gentle hum that resonated with Kale's heartbeat. He smiled, knowing that the journey ahead would be challenging, but that he was no longer alone. He had earned trust, shown courage, and begun a bridge between two worlds. Mira placed a hand lightly on the sword's hilt. "Rest now, Kale. Tomorrow we train, we learn, and we grow together. Today you have earned the trust of my people and the sword itself. Never forget what you have accomplished here." Kale bowed respectfully. "I will not forget, my queen. I will honor this trust and continue to learn." As Kale walked toward the exit of the arena, the sun fully set behind the mountains. The glow of the sword shimmered softly, a beacon of hope, courage, and the beginning of an alliance that could shape the future. Kale's journey was far from over, but he had proven